Hello and welcome to the Wisdom Fountain. It is Wisdom Wednesday with me, Tiffany Rochelle, your leadership strategist and accountability coach. And I am so happy to be here with you this week. If this is your first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. And I appreciate you for coming and spending some time with me. So, for those of you who don't know, I am an accountability coach for high functioning leaders, and I help them maintain their accountability. And so a lot of the revelation and wisdom that I acquire is by observation of people and experiences and attitudes and situations. And so when I work with my clients, I don't just randomly come up with answers. I really get a chance, an opportunity to walk with them through their situations, to talk them through their mindsets and ideas about what is occurring, what's challenging them, what's causing them frustration or anger. And this week, the big thing that I noticed is that I literally spend a great deal of my time helping people to change their perspective. That's probably one of the greatest ways that I service people, is helping them to change their perspective. Why would anybody want to change their perspective? Well, the reality is the way that we look at a thing has a great deal to do with how we process our actions, what decisions we make, and how we actually face situations, whether we are angry, whether we're fearful, whether we're sad, depressed, whatever our emotions come up, it will be greatly influenced by our perspective. The one thing that I notice becomes a challenge is that many of us struggle with changing our perspective because, first off, we don't even know what we're looking at. We can't necessarily change the way we're looking at a thing because we don't know, in fact, what it is we're looking at. Because when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we feel like we're being attacked on all sides, when it seems like everything is going wrong, things are blowing up, we don't have an answer, what it looks like is chaos. It looks like just a bunch of mess, a bunch of attacks, a bunch of nonsense, and then we become overwhelmed and frustrated. And since we can't focus on one thing, or since we can't name any one thing that is causing us a problem, we freeze, we shut down, we become paralyzed, and then we have no perspective, no view. It's like we're literally staring into an abyss. I guess that's the best way I could describe it. Staring into an abyss because we have not been able to identify the actual cause of our frustration. We can't change our perspective because we don't even know what we're looking at. We haven't been able to properly assess it. What does that mean? What does that look like? Well, how many times have you or someone you know told you or said, "I'm angry, I'm just mad"? And you're like, "Well, you're mad at what?" "You know, the dog barked and the ceiling fell down and my kids didn't listen." And then there's a whole bunch of lists of things that are contributing factors to your anger, but they're not the cause for the factor of your anger or frustration. So I help people to narrow down their perspective so they get really, really clear what it is that they're looking at, so then they can adjust and address the attitude they have toward what it is that they're looking at. Many times their situations are unable to change. Our situations are unable to change immediately. It could be our job, it could be our marriage, it could be our housing, and in the immediate moment, we cannot change it. However, if we are able to change the perspective of which we look at a thing, then what we're looking at will change. Even in the natural, right? I'll just use this as an example. I have this. I'm looking at it. You're looking at it here. The perspective is straight on, right? Now, this could stay right here, but if I turn my head, and you guys can do this too, if I turn my head this way, what I'm seeing looks different. If I turn my head this way, what I'm seeing looks different. This situation has not changed, but I have changed the way that I'm looking at it. Why is that important? Because if we truly want to have harmony, balance, just sense of peace in our life, we have to be willing to change or challenge the way that we're looking at things. I know somebody who hates their job. They hate going to work. They hate the people they work with. They hate the pay. They hate the company. It's like there's literally nothing they enjoy about it, and they're miserable. But when you speak to them about it, they never talk to you about themselves. All they talk to you about is the external factors. Oh, the company doesn't pay good enough. The people are jerks. The drive is too far. The pay is too low. All of these are things that they can't change. You can't change the people that you work with unless you change jobs. And if you're in a situation where you can't change your job, what are you going to do? You can't change the company pay if you agree to it and that's what they pay you, right? How do you change it? You change your perspective. You change the way you look at it. But if you're not willing to, then you're going to continue to suffer. Like, if you're not willing to look at yourself and your own personal accountability, your own personal interest, your own personal participation in your life, in the situations in your life, then again, you're going to struggle. And most likely you're going to be miserable. Many of us feel overworked, unappreciated by our family, by our friends, by our companies, right? But instead of us saying, well, why won't they just treat me better? What if you ask yourself, what if I treated me better? What if I created boundaries? What if I stood up for myself? What if I stopped saying yes? And what if I meant my no? What if you actually kept your word to yourself, kept your boundaries to yourself because you valued you? That's a shift in perspective, because nobody on the outside can change your personal value and your personal worth. That's a you job. That's how you begin to change your perspective. But again, you have to make the decision whether you're willing to even do that. Whether you're willing to look at it from a different angle. Whether you're willing to be accountable and say, you know what? This is how I participated in my own misery. I was teaching a class the other night, and I told a story about a previous marriage that I'm divorced from now. But when I told them about the situation that I was in the relationship I was in, I admitted to them that I knew I shouldn't have married the person, but I did it for a different reason. And when I admitted that I married them for a different reason than just being madly in love, and I accepted my accountability in it, I was able to release it, because I was not then blaming them for everything that happened in the relationship. I was not blaming them for, the divorce. I wasn't blaming them for how they made me feel. I accepted my power by accepting my participation. My perspective was a high level perspective because I looked at it from an aerial view, not from under it as a victim. I challenge you to view and check your perspective. Where are you? The world that we're living in is not the world that we were in last year, last 2 years. We're in a different place and a different time. And if you're not willing to shift, the world is not going to stop because you are. The world is going to continue to shift. And if you do not learn to adapt and gain the ability to shift your angles, your perspectives, whether you're over it, whether you're under it, you're going to get drugged by it. That's the nicest way I could say that in this moment. And it's not, the world can be intimidating. The things are like every day. Some days I literally just go, I can't even deal with this. So I understand the feeling of being overwhelmed or underwhelmed by what is happening around us. But the one thing that I refuse to do is allow anyone else's ideas or anyone else's view to make me feel like I'm suffering in my life. If I'm suffering, it's going to be because I'm suffering because of me, not because somebody else's perspective is permeating my life. Take action. Take a stand for yourself. Change your life by changing your view. Maybe you need to close your eyes and then reopen them. Maybe you need to shift from looking at the problems to looking at what you're grateful for. Maybe you need to see all the things that are good in your life, even if it's small things like being able to breathe unassisted, being able to walk unassisted, waking up. Sometimes we have to start small in order to build up to the big. But I guarantee if you are willing to change your perspective, that simple thing will indeed change your life. So that's the wisdom for today. I thank you for joining me. Look forward to talking to you again next week. If you'd like to get in contact, please send the email to visit thewisdomfountain@gmail.com. You can listen to this on podcast on anchor.fm/thewisdomfountain. Find us on IG, Wisdom Fountain, and we're going to keep coming back and continue to grow. If you'd like a subject matter discussed, please send us a note. If you would like to be a guest and maybe have a wise discussion, hit me on the email or on the DM in the IG. Yeah, that'll work. So I thank you again, and until the next time, this is Tiffany Rochelle. Be wise.